So Kentucky's legislature has put forth like 700 something bills, but they've only passed 8. I have been talking about how many bills are they going to pass, right? And I don't know the gambling law, so you know I haven't bet on this, but as a betting man, you know, I was saying, well, I bet they pass less than 10. I bet they passed less than 10 bills this year, and they passed 8 so far, and there's a week left. Okay, so now I'm talking about the last 3. I already talked about the first 5 in the previous video. So this video I'm going to talk about the last 3, and the last 3 is there's a definition about what strokes are. There's a malt beverage bill, which is actually bigger than just malt beverages, and there's a rare disease day. They declared February 28th, 2015 Rare Disease Day. So I'm going to talk about the 2 little ones, and then we'll talk about the malt beverages, because that's actually a huge thing. It's not just about, it is about beer, but it actually gets really pretty complicated. So let's talk about the strokes, okay? So this says amend KRS 216B.0425 to define the terms acute stroke ready hospital certification and comprehensive stroke center certification. Require that Cabinet for Health and Family Services to maintain a list of acute stroke ready hospitals, comprehensive stroke centers, and primary stroke centers. Post the list on its website and provide the list to the Kentucky Board of Emergency Medical Services. Require the board to provide the list to local emergency medical services providers and men care. Okay, so anyways, this bill is to improve care for stroke victims. So they're having to define this, and I don't. The word acute strokes are not cute, so I'm not for sure about that terminology. Sorry, but that was a stupid joke. But acute stroke ready hospital certification. So this is just making it, I guess, to where people have strokes, then they have, you know, they have a better information about it. So this almost seems like a no-brainer. This is just a good bill, right? So it's just good because it's helping people who have strokes. They're trying to figure out what hospitals are stroke-ready hospitals, and then that list is supposed to be maintained by the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. So that's an easy one. That was a little one. There's another little one here. It says designate February 28th, 2015 as Rare Disease Day in Kentucky. 28th, 2015. So it's already passed. So actually this is a stupid bill. They should have said make February 28th for the end of all time to be a Rare Disease Day, because this is already passed, so we can't even celebrate this. They had passed it, you know, in the House, but Brashear has to sign it, and so it says February 28, 2015. So I think it's a good bill. It's a good idea. Rare diseases. So people will be talking about what are the rare diseases out there, what does that mean, and let's talk about them. So I think it's good to encourage people to be more informed, but the fact that they included 2015 in this, I feel like this isn't making it a annual thing. It was making it, you know, this is 6 days ago. 6 days ago was Rare Disease Day. Well, how can anybody celebrate what happened 6 days ago? So this was it was introduced February 9th, and then it was received in the Senate March the 4th. So it already had passed. So they didn't pass this bill quick enough. So I agree with this bill, but the 2015 I think makes it problematic, and it might not get signed. If anything, the line item veto, just cross out 2015, and then February 28th from here on out is Rare Disease Day in Kentucky. And that's a weird, that's not a good thing, right? Hey, happy Rare Disease Day. Hey, happy Rare Disease Day to you. No, that's, you know, it's like a 9/11, you know, it's like a day of mourning, a day of reflection, a day of kind of thinking about all the rare diseases. Okay, so now we got this big bill, right? So let's just HB 168. You have a bunch of, you know, co-sponsors. This is an act relating to incompatible licenses. Amend KRS 243.110 to specify malt beverage licenses which are to be considered incompatible. If you were just to read this bill, you have no idea what they're talking about. You'd have to read some of these amendments real specific, and even then, I don't know if you actually get to the point where you know what is happening. What is this bill about? Well, it's complicated, but I read a little bit of this Herald Leader article here, and I read a little bit of this Kentucky Center for Investigative Reporting article. These are two really informative pieces. And then the statejournal.com actually went ahead and posted, because it just was passed, and so this is what the bill decides. And then I saw a little bit here where you got some comments about, you know, people just saying, this is what I think about the bill. No, this is what I think about the bill. And so here's what it says here. House Bill 168 would prohibit an entity that has a brewer's or out-of-state malt beverage license from also having a distributor's license. Now, when it says malt beverage, what is a malt beverage, okay? Well, first of all, I want to mention first that Kentucky is #1 for binge drinking. We have a long tradition of moonshining. Alcohol is legal here, but there's actually 50 counties that prohibit alcohol. Breckinridge County just legalized alcohol sales last year or 2 years ago. So the reason why I want to mention both of those things, #1 for binge drinking, we got a problem with alcoholism here. In fact, capitalism doesn't solve alcoholism, pollution, poverty. There's lots of things that capitalism does not solve. In fact, capitalism pushes alcohol towards you. So and it's also interesting too with the prohibition law. So 50 counties, there's 120 counties and 50 counties in Kentucky. So, you know, not 50%, that'd be 60, but it's almost 50%, almost half the counties. You're not allowed to buy any alcohol. There's no alcohol sales at all. So prohibition actually remained pretty strong here in Kentucky. What's weird about this law is if they can say not only do you have alcohol, so you're illegal, but if they could find out that you have the intent to distribute. So if you had two cases, you know, if you had two cases of you know, natural light that it looks like you wasn't going to drink it for yourself, you were going to provide for a party, well, that looks like you're not only an alcohol user, but you're also an alcohol dealer. You're going to be giving it to other people. Well, the cops can confiscate your car. They could take your vehicle, put you in jail, take your vehicle, take the beer away, and now you got to deal with criminal charges. That is a law that's on the books. And anytime any sheriff or any county attorney or you know, anybody else that has arrest power, your constables or your jailers or your coroners, they can take your car. They can take your car away from you. So that's a dumb law. It's stupid. Alcoholism is a big problem. I've been saying this thing. Alcohol will lead to Kentucky's downfall, but marijuana will lead to our elevation. And or cannabis. Cannabis is its actual name. Marijuana was its racist designation. So cannabis, and that's just a rhetorical thing. But it's sort of true. I mean, alcohol makes you crazy and stupid and do dumb things, beat your wife, drink and drive, run over people. Whereas marijuana makes you hungry, happy, sleepy. You know, you eat a bunch of Doritos, you fall asleep. It doesn't make you violent. And so it's more rhetoric because you have a right to your own body. So of course I'm in favor of, you know, whatever you want to do to your own body, you can do it. That's acceptable. That's fine. But the point is still, you know, the point that I'm making is that alcohol is worse. And here there's so many regulations in Kentucky, and that's why this thing is, I'm going to untangle this so that we can find out what's going on. Okay, so what is this bill about? So this bill is about, here are the groups that are contending. So you got craft brewers such as Lexington's Country Boy and West 6 Brewery have the support of Lexington-based distributor Kentucky Eagle, the Kentucky Guild of Brewers, and the National Beer Wholesalers Association. Anheuser-Busch, this is Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, and I think Stella Artois. Anheuser-Busch InBev has the backing of Greater Louisville Incorporated, Louisville's Chamber of Commerce, and the Teamsters. And that's actually like a match made in heaven. The Chamber of Commerce, corporation in Central, Teamsters, unions, workers' rights, corporations, they're all in favor of Anheuser-Busch. Now, Teamsters are the one that have unionized Anheuser. So, of course, they want their, you know, corporation to become monopolized because then that means they increase their power. But this isn't a union thing. This isn't a union busting tactic at all. And the craft brewers, I'll just go and tell you, are the ones who are going to win. Okay, so Anheuser-Busch lost. And the thing, what this breaks down to, okay, is that we have currently right now a three-tiered system. We have a three-tiered system in Kentucky, And it's you have three different types of people that's in the beer trade. You got the producers, those who make the beer. Then you got distributors, those who drive the beer around. And then you have the retailers, the places that actually sell the thing. And it came after Prohibition. It was to stop monopolies from happening. So Anheuser-Busch can't produce the beer, distribute it, and sell it. They can't do all three of those things. You can only do one of those things. And that's what the laws were understood to be, but they was able to find a loophole. In fact, Anheuser-Busch owned a distributor in Louisville since 1978. Since 1978, so that's 32, 15, that's 47 years ago. So Anheuser-Busch has owned the distributor in Louisville for nearly 50 years, and then they bought a distributor in Owensboro. So this is a producer who is buying distributors. They've owned a distributor forever. They've owned a distributor in Louisville. Now they bought one in Owensboro. They try to stop it. The state or somebody tried to stop it, and then they fought it in court, and they wind up winning because Kentucky law did not prohibit. For some reason, they found some loophole where it didn't prohibit anybody. So now they're making the three-tiered system. They're putting it into law. So the microbrewers won. And so what are the craft brewers? Magic Hat, Sierra Nevada, Woodchuck. So Magic Hat won, and Budweiser lost. So, when I think about malt beverages, I was thinking like Smirnoff, Mike's Hard Lemonade, Sky Blue, Four Loko, Seagram's, Mojito, Natty Light, Milwaukee's Best, Steel Reserve, Malt Liquor, Zima. These are like malt beverages, but I guess malt beverages could just be any beer that's made. So it's actually it's not worded. If there's no way you could have read this bill, an act relating to incompatible licenses. There's no way you could have been able to discern what's all going on. You got to find the articles. You got to find out what the intent of the person who wrote the thing was, and then you have to see what it is that they wanted to do. So the craft brewers won. The craft brewers beat Anheuser-Busch and the Teamsters, so they were the losers, and the craft brewers, Magic Hat, Sierra Nevada, and Woodchuck had won. So because this bill had passed, Anheuser-Busch now has to sell their distributor in Louisville and sell the distributor in Owensboro. And they're real mad. They said it was unconstitutional, so we might see some legal wrangling coming out here. I have this last article here. I want to explain it because I think it actually shows one good example of sort of a small businessman who's kind of not really that small, but he doesn't like it. But then we're going to see another one who really likes it. Before I mention that, though, the hypocrisy. I want to bring up the hypocrisy again. Okay, so right now in Kentucky, maybe about 10 years ago, we had a big Oxycontin epidemic, right? A lot of people was on pain pills. They're called pillbillies, and Oxycontin was just taking over and ruining lots of people's lives. Actually, I think Greg Stumbo had sued Oxycontin in order to, excuse me, let me get a drink. So he had sued Oxycontin in order to save Appalachia, the people that got on the pills. They got some money from Oxycontin, so that way they can help all these pillbillies. But again, we have a long tradition of moonshining, and you can't mess with the hill people. So Oxycontin first comes up, and then it goes to meth. Okay, then after meth, now we have a heroin epidemic. And a lot of people actually point out that the heroin epidemic, because Oxycontin is called hillbilly heroin, when they made Oxycontin, they sued them. They quit prescribing them so much. Now people needed a quick fix, but they couldn't get their Oxycontin, so they bought heroin, which was like street Oxycontin, and it was a lot cheaper. And so Portugal had the same exact problem, and maybe 20 years ago, 10, 20 years ago. Portugal in Europe, okay? So Portugal had lots of addicts, lots of people that was on drugs, drug epidemic. So what Portugal did is they decriminalized all drugs. They decriminalized it all and started regulating it. Now it's a wild success. In fact, every place where the war on drugs is being enacted has been a miserable failure, and every place where alternatives have been presented have been great successes. So in the great pool of ideas, the best ideas should prevail. Well, we need to legalize everything and regulate it. Do it like Portugal did. In fact, it's not that I want everybody to have anything that they want to, but my point would be, I think marijuana would be the end result. So you try all, you know, it's not a gateway drug or gateway drug, gateway drug. It's actually a, it's the end drug. So once if you tried marijuana, you realize that everybody's lying to you. It's not a Schedule II narcotic. It's not, you know, going to make any weird hallucinations. It's not going to make you crazy and violent. So everybody is lying about marijuana. Everybody. That's how you can tell the older generation's a bunch of liars. They're the hippies, right? They know that it's not alcohol. Alcohol is so much worse. And so if you legalize marijuana, people would, if they had to pick a vice, if I had a choice of a bunch of heroin addicts or meth addicts or Oxycontin or a bunch of alcoholics or a bunch of potheads, give me a bunch of potheads any day of the week. Any day of the week. You actually want to solve it? Decriminalize it. Do like Portugal. Okay, so now, for the final few minutes, I'm just going to talk about there's one guy here that was in, that kind of got screwed over and he was mad. So this guy named Bonder. Bonder says that Bob Bonder, who's a co-owner of Rheingeist Brewery in Cincinnati, testified that he'd have to shut down his recently opened River Ghost Distributing Company in Erlanger that has a small craft beer focus. So this guy owns a brewery and he bought a distributor in Erlanger. You're not allowed to do that. You know, the three-tiered system says that the producers can only sell to the distributors can only sell to the retailers, and that's it. They all have to be separate. You cannot have one company that owns all three. That'll create a monopoly. So you can only have, they all have to be separate. So this guy's going to have to sell his distributor, just like Anheuser-Busch is going to have to sell their distributors in Louisville and Owensboro. Excuse me, feeling a little parched here. Okay. So he's saying the way it's written, it would force him to close it down. He's like, you know, I have jobs there and this is just ridiculous. I'm going to default on my loans and I'm going to get ruined because of this law. So I think there should be some way you could offset the cost. Maybe somebody, I mean, this is sort of, it's not eminent domain, but they are making it illegal, which they already own it. So I don't know if you have to make them sell it, because I would think that if it's already bought, then you can continue operations, but from now on. Or they should pay them. They should, you know, they should recoup the cost. Eminent domain, you could take land for public use, but you got to pay the people, you know, a fair market value for the land that you took. So he's mad about it. He took a $250,000 loan for the 10,000 square foot location, and he said he'd have to default and then people would lose their jobs. And he says that it also sends a message to out-of-state entrepreneurs. Now, the person who is in favor of this, Daniel Harrison, is a co-owner of the Country Boy Brewing in Lexington, told legislators that the company has experienced healthy growth since opening in 2012. The brewery has grown from producing 500 barrels of beer or 15,000 gallons to projected 8,000 gallons or whatever, a bunch of stuff. So Harrison said one factor for this success is working with a group of independent distributors who work tirelessly to get their beer on shelves and on the taps. So he's saying he likes the independent system. They make the beer and then the distributors go and distribute it. So if Anheuser-Busch was to buy, you know, the brewery, the distributor, and the retailer, then they could just not distribute anybody else's beer, especially the craft beers, because that's the competition. They don't want to distribute the competition. But the way that it is now, independent distributors distribute Anheuser-Busch, they distribute the Budweiser, but they also distribute the Magic Hat, Sierra Nevada, Woodchuck, and all your other, you know, non-Anheuser-Busch beers. They distribute all of it. And so he says, we, like our friends in the wine and spirits industry, must rely on a system of independent distributors. Daniel Harrison said, we all at Country Boy and Kentucky Guild of Brewers are asking for a fair and level playing field for all brewers, both in state and out, both young and old, both small and gigantic. So Damon Williams, Director of Sales and Marketing for Anheuser-Busch, okay, he's mad about it. He says a property issue, and Stumbo said that it's a state license issue, not a property issue. So that's the kind of the large and small of it. This guy is mad because he says that he paid for it beforehand. So I don't see how they could actually screw this guy over and make him sell something and make him default on a loan when he already had bought it when it was legal. And so now it's like retroactively they're sort of making something illegal. So I think they got to make it fair for, you know, you can't just force them to sell their distributors when they invested a bunch of money into it. They're just going to take a big loss. It's just going to be a big gut check. This is robbery, right? So either they got to pay them or, you know, help them sell it and get somebody else to get the distributor so they can sort of offset their cost. But I think it's actually a good decision because it's to prevent monopolies. If Anheuser-Busch was to have bought that Owensboro distributor, you're not going to see, Magic Hat, Sierra Nevada, Woodchuck, or maybe you would, I don't know. But if I'm a monopoly, I'm not going to sell my competition's products. I want to just sell my products. And if I owned a distributor, that would be my right? As a private business owner, I can do whatever I want to do. So therefore, if I didn't want to sell my competition, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to sell my own stuff, and then I make more money. I monopolize the thing, and then put everybody else out of business. So I think it's a good thing. They reinforced the three-tier system. Producers can only sell to the distributors, and distributors can only sell to the retailers, and they all have to be completely separate. I was actually thinking about this. What would, so Anheuser-Busch is this huge company. What would stop Anheuser-Busch from making, change the name to, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Let's just say Purple Haze. They start a company named Purple Haze Incorporated, and so Purple Haze Incorporated now can buy the distributor somehow with the Anheuser-Busch money. They're going to say, well, there's connections there. I think you could probably set up two entities, and it'd be owned by an umbrella organization, and that's how they would get them. So I think Anheuser-Busch could just break off a piece of what they're doing and set up an independent business, and then they would be sort of still making the money, and then they could be the retailer too. So I don't know if there's some sort of clever way of getting around the three-tiered system. I don't like monopolies. I like the little guy, and I'm glad that the little guy won here. I'm a little frustrated with the Teamsters because they're right. They do, Anheuser-Busch does employ a lot of people, and the Teamsters are unionized, and we don't have many unions out there, so it's not going to be good for the unions because once they have to sell to distributors, there's, the workers, I don't know if they're going to be able to retain their jobs or not. And so, this was kind of a crazy battle, but this is how it ended up. So that's what that last bill is. That's what HB 168 is. The small brewers won. The craft brewers won. Magic Hat, Sierra Nevada, Woodchuck, all these craft brewers now are not going to be pushed out of the market by a monopoly. And the independent producer, distributor, retailer, the three-tiered system is going to remain in place. So that's the end of Kentucky's 8 bills. March 5th, 2015. Jonathan Masters, Hudson, Kentucky. Occupy.